On Two Wheels this week, Jeff rides Triumph's new TT600. Claire spends the day with a lady racer. There's more from this year's classic bike show. Jeff has another tech tip and there's more biker chat. And Wayne and I have discovered the perfect place to ride as fast as you like without losing your license.
Regulars will know I've always rated Triumph's triple-engine bikes. The engine really gives the bike character. But now, 10 years on since the Triumph rebirth, they've gone mainstream. Head-to-head in the most hotly contested market there is, the 600cc sports class. And this is their contender, the TT600. 3 years in development, this is a massive gamble for Triumph. If they are to succeed, they'll have to beat the Japanese at their own game. So have they? Will they? At first sight, it doesn't look anything special. In fact, if you took the name off the tank, this could be any of the Japanese four. But perhaps that's the idea, and perhaps it's paying them a compliment. But incidentally, this tank is steel. That's a first for Triumph. They're normally plastic, so you can't use your magnetic tank bag. On this one, you can. But under here is the important bit. You can never see the engine these days, all these fairings. 600cc, 4-cylinder, double overhead cam and all the rest of it. But a first for Triumph in this class, it's fuel injected. Another thing that it's got, which isn't a first for Triumph, because they're all getting onto ram air, is these gun barrel devices, one either side of the fairing, which actually gives you another 3 brake horsepower at 150 mile an hour. I'm sure that'll be very useful. Out in the real world though, it sings like any good four should. Unlike its 3-cylinder siblings, this is a brand new motor with no shared parts. It's revvy too, spinning up to 13,750 revs before the rev limiter cuts the fun. The gearbox is an absolute belter, really slick and a pleasure to stir the motor with. At lower speeds though, things aren't quite so clever. In fact, it feels as though you're about to run out of petrol at anything below 4,000 revs. Once you hit 4 grand though, it really does come alive. But the good news is Triumph are going to introduce a mod to clean up this fuel injection problem, which is good, and I hope it's retrospective for owners who've already bought a bike, but I shall assume it is. Anyway, we've got a frame here that you can see, a perimeter frame, beam frame aluminium, all painted nice matte black. A little bit untidy down the back end here, not actually the frame, but where the rear brake is actually anchored, you can see all the exposed master cylinder. It looks a bit sort of messy there. But anyway, it does its job. Up the front, fully adjustable front forks. And down here, we've got Triumph calipers. They're actually Nissan calipers, but badged Triumph. And a very neat touch here, they've actually got steel braided hoses. While we're down the front, this front wheel deserves a mention because it's extra lightweight. That makes for quicker steering. You'd lose the gyroscopic effect. So that's a plus point. At the back here, again, we've got a lighter wheel. Now there, it's not so much the gyroscopic effect, but it does reduce unsprung weight, which makes the suspension work far easier. Swing arm there, fairly conventional, and again a conventional monoshock at the back, but it's fully adjustable and it does the business. The nice thing is though, no matter how fairly ordinary this little lot sounds, it's all gone together fantastically well to make a truly sweet handling bike. 600s tend to be that way anyway, but the TT really does work well. A punchy engine housed in a competent chassis. At 170 kilos, it's a flyweight, but the suspension is really good. Perfectly matched and compliant, but firm enough to give plenty of feedback. A bike you can quickly feel thoroughly at home on. The foot pegs feel high at first, but even my long legs didn't complain, although it did make for a fairly upright riding position. Still, the big seat made up for it with a very comfortable ride. Talking of riding position, this is the pilot's eye view, needless to say. The first thing you can notice, the screen blade actually looks fairly low, but the fairing itself is surprisingly effective. It does actually deflect the air over the top of your head, which is what you want. On the instruments here, you've got Triumph's standard white-faced rev counter, and over there, a really easy-to-read big digital speedo, just the job in these Gatso-ridden days. The bars that you can see here, handlebars, are both mounted on top of the yokes. They're still clamped to the top of the forks, but they're up there, not clip-ons as we normally think of them. It gives a more upright riding position, as I've already mentioned. Coming up here to the mirrors, they look pretty generous, but it's still the old problem. You can see what's behind you, which is a pleasant change, because some are even worse, but you've still got a fair bit of the old arm in there. Now, the seat, as I've said, very, very comfortable, and it's also comfortable for the pillion passenger. It's very, very plush and pretty generous. But look, no grab rail as standard. That's where it goes, but it's one of the optional extras and it costs you £89. Something else it hasn't got, but the CB600 Honda has, is a centre stand. So that's missing, and what Triumph do is an optional extra is a paddock stand, but that's going to cost you £80. In fact, there's a whole range of tailor-made accessories, such as throw-over panniers, a tank bag, a performance silencer, read a louder end can, alarm immobiliser, carbon look hugger, the list goes on and on. But at £6,999 on the road, you get the basic works, and boy does it work. But is the Bulldog better than the Rising Sun? Well, if not actually better, it's certainly equal, and that is one hell of an achievement.
This rider competes in the Superstock series on a Fireblade. This rider has also competed at the Isle of Man TT and is a race school instructor. Her name is Maria Costello.
Maria, you've set yourself a bit of a hard task in the year coming ahead of you. Superstocks on a blade, haven't you?
Absolutely, yes. Didn't go for an easy class.
No.
In at the deep end for sure. So, but just I've got it all to do, but it's coming already. So, and with all the great support, it's a big help.
Relatively new to the racing world. You've only been racing since '95.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like long at all. I mean, the years just pass you by, and with having a couple of injuries, I mean, it cuts the season short, and you don't actually do a full season that year. So some of the years don't really count. But yeah, I've had sort of come up from riding RGV 250 at club meetings. Started here at Mallory Park, and then I actually got picked to ride in an all-girl team alongside Sandra Barnett, and that was like, I went from riding a two-stroke to a four-stroke. That's my first four-stroke I ever rode, and we were all on 600s, and that was fantastic.
A predictable question to ask you, is it a help or a hindrance being a woman in this environment? But it's got to be a help, the media attention that someone like you is going to attract.
Yeah, I mean, I could not do it without the sponsorship that I get. I mean, Cosworth Bikes have been fantastic, they've given me the blade, and they are supporting me as well financially, and without that I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be doing it. So they've given me the opportunity, you know. Basically they're passionate about the sport as well, and luckily we've met up and it's working out well. So
I can imagine some of the guys in the paddock, some brilliant racers around now, such brilliant personalities. I can imagine they've really welcomed you into that environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone knows everyone, and yeah.
What about the competitive field when they see you, if you coming up and kind of getting a few places on them? What do they feel about that?
Well, I've got a lot to do this year in this class, but in the past, yeah, I mean, they hate being beaten by girls. Yes, it's true. I used to deny it, actually. I used to say, oh no, it doesn't make any difference. I'm just another rider out there, and that's how I want them to see me. But it's not like that.
They don't all look like you. This is the thing.
So, because I've had it, you know, when I've just been testing before, and they'll do anything to get past you. They'll risk life and limb to get past you.
Can't be beaten by a wee girlie.
But it makes it harder for me. In fact, I broke my collarbone here racing the CB500s at the bus stop because somebody basically barged me. They couldn't get past.
Really?
In, you know, normal, you know, an overtaking manoeuvre. We were battling around the S's every lap. And then we came into the bus stop, and he decided that he'd have to get rid of me if he was to get past. So put me on the floor. So yeah,
a hindrance in that respect, I'm sure. Maria, there's a bit of a girl power thing going on with your team, isn't there?
Yes, I mean T3 Racing helped me out, and they've got all their mechanics. But I've actually half-inched a girl mechanic who's helping me out this year, and it's fantastic.
What are the advantages of having a female mechanic on the team then?
Well, I better be careful what I say about the guys in the team, but who are all brilliant. But I think it's a bit tricky for them to take sort of requests, perhaps, from me.
Very diplomatically here, Maria.
I know. You know, I think it's just a weird environment for them to be, you know, asked by a girl who knows something about bikes how she wants it setting up and things. I mean, I'm learning about it myself, but having Kelly there, it's brilliant. It's just working really well. Just, you know, Kelly, can you do this? It's done. And, I mean, she's learning as well at the same time, so it's brilliant.
You're both on the same wavelength.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, it's brilliant to see you out there. You're in the top 3 in the country at the moment.
Yes, as the girls go, yeah, and just hopefully going to be working my way up through Superstocks, and it's going that way. So.
Any aspirations for Superbike?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I'm not going to say anything yet. I don't like to tempt fate, but I want to get better in the Superstocks. Just, you know, let's show everybody that I've still got it in me after my TT crash, and you know, work towards it. Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure we'll see a lot
Plenty
more
more
of
to
you.
come.
Good luck,
yeah.
Maria.
Thank you ever so much.
There are not many machines out there nowadays that are in what we call standard trim. Oh no, most people have a whole load of bolt-on goodies. Now, are you the type of person who hides your expensive bolt-on goodies just because you want extra performance? Or are you a bit of a poser and you want everybody out there to see how much money you've spent on your machine?
My favourite bit of kit for a bike, accessory for my bike, it'd have to be a bolt-on can, noisy can. Just sports bikes are too quiet. You get a can on it and not bothered about the power, it's just for the noise, reverberating around the houses, out towards the country lanes. It sounds better with the pipe on.
If I had £600 or £700 in my back pocket, money no object, I'd put a set of Termies on my bike. Sound nice, look good. Superb.
I want to do a bit more touring and such like, so obviously you need the equipment, you're out on the bike all day, you know, you need the luggage, and I think I'd treat myself to a full luggage kit and top box and such like.
If I could add something to my bike, it would definitely be, it'd have to be aftermarket cam first, full system hopefully, and then like, rather than get it looking the business, I'd rather get it tuned up inside, new cam, you know, stage 1, dyno jet and all that, you know, blueprint the engine, you know, I was thinking about having it done to one of my bikes, but I had quotes like over £1,000 and just couldn't justify spending the money, you know. I'd rather change up and change the bike rather than go overboard.
And coming up after the break, Wayne and I go straight lining. There's more from this year's classic show and another tech tip.
Now, it might be cotton, but I'm not going to spin you a yarn, honest. See these forks? Telescopic forks these days, commonplace, but these are the old girder forks. And you can see why, they look like a bridge. But they're very solid construction, and the only spring you've got is this common spring in the middle. As the forks go up and down, they pivot there and compress the spring. A bit like BMW's modern system, the telelever in a way. But here, this is the only form of damping you had. You had to tighten up these nuts to increase the damping because they squeeze down here on 2 friction discs in there. The only trouble was, when it rained and they got wet, you lost your damping. So then you tightened it up, and then when it got very dry, the damping was too firm. Not too clever, but that's all you had. But while we're on this one, see these bars and these rather unusual levers. They're end pull levers, they're called, and they're very, very neat because the cable runs down the bar, down there, so the front brake one comes out here, down to the front brake, the clutch on the other side, all through the bar, out to the centre, down to the clutch. And you almost needed a training course just on the controls in those days, because you've got a couple of levers up here. This one's the choke, nice and easy to operate there. And this one is the ignition advance. Forget re-chipping your ignition, which is what you do these days. This one was manual. You can advance and retard the spark on the lever. And there's yet another lever under there. This one is called a decompressor. You're thinking, what does that do? You pull that, and if we can follow it round to the other side, operates a cable here, down onto the bottom of the push rod, and it actually lifts one of the cam followers, and you lift the exhaust valve. So when you go to kick start it, because no electric those days, you can spin the engine easily. So lift it up, kick it down, get the engine spinning, let go. With a bit of luck, it'll burst into life.
This, in case you don't recognise it, is the Shakespeare County Raceway. You may indeed know it as the Avon Park Raceway. Of course, it's home to the famous Bulldog Bash every year. But this weekend, it's home to rather a different type of event. It's called a straight liners meeting.
What is straight liners? Well, straight liners is very simple, because they go in a straight line. Exactly that. It'd be ideal for me, I can't go around corners. And you start at the front and go to the other end, and when you get there, the time is logged, and you can see how quick you go. It's easy as that. Simply pay £20, get as many goes as you want, get the information on a piece of paper, see if you can beat it, see if you can beat your mates. And that is simple as that. That's straight liners.
So to go screaming down a quarter-mile strip like this at tremendous speed, you need a big, powerful bike like a Suzuki 1200 Bandit with all the trimmings on it. Well, no, that's completely wrong. You don't need anything like that. You can turn up here on your road bike. You pay £20 to come through the gate and you go on the racetrack. So if you and your mate have got a bit of a bet going, whose bike is the fastest, you can come here together, go down the track together and decide it that way. It's a lot cheaper than getting 3 points on your licence.
It is indeed an awful lot cheaper than getting a speeding fine, and I can tell you what, it's an awful lot safer as well, because everybody's going in the same direction, of course. Nobody coming the other way, only 2 people at a time, yes. And of course, there's marshals here, medical team and everything. So if you do fancy trying out your bike to see how quick it goes, you can do no better than coming here and avoiding those speeding fines and possibly those incidents.
A walk around the paddock area shows the amazing variety of machines at an event like this. Of course, the vast majority are road legal standard production bikes, but there are plenty of specials with nitrous bottles and race cans, and even a stretched Hayabusa with an extra long swing arm. There are also the more dedicated drag bikes, with their wheelie bars, big motors, and even bigger rear tyres. The procedure for a straight liners is quite simple. You pay your entrance fee and you're given a number. Then it's just a case of joining the queue and waiting until you're called forward, 2 at a time. Burnouts aren't compulsory, but they do actually serve a purpose. It warms the rear tyre and it helps to make it nice and sticky, so improving grip and maybe gaining you that all-important fraction of a second when the lights go green. And at the end of each run, 2 figures are displayed. One is your top speed and the other is the time it's taken you to cover the quarter mile. You're also presented with a piece of paper which shows your reaction time when the light went green, your speed over the first 60 feet, and it gives a breakdown of what happened where along the run. Something else you may have noticed is that there appears to be no noise regulations here, so if you're running a race can on your machine, doesn't matter, leave it on, bring it here. I don't mean ride with it here, but you know, well, you know what I mean. You can ride down here, you can make as much noise as you want. Nobody gives a hoot. And nobody really cares how fast you go, or indeed how exactly you decide to travel down the strip. Most riders do things the conventional way with both wheels on the ground. But of course, there are those who just have to be different.
So this straight liner event is only one of a series run by street fighters, and then it's all over the country in different places and obviously in very different times of the year. You can have a go in the series, but you can also have a go in just one event. You come along, you pay your 20 quid and you have a play. You can either impress your mates or impress yourself or even make a fool of yourself. What the hell, it's at least a chance to have a go on your super bike without losing your licence.
Now, wheel alignment, ignore it at your peril, because it's most important that both wheels are in line, because you could also get the chain out of line as well. Let me show you. Right, so what we got, front wheel here, excuse this drawing, back wheel here, and of course the back tyre is much bigger. Pair of handlebars there. And then here you've got your gearbox sprocket and rear wheel sprocket. If the wheels are nicely in line, chain's nicely in line, no problem. What you can get on another bike is that front wheel, back wheel, this time on an angle. Gearbox sprocket's still there. Look what happens to that back sprocket. The chain ends up curved. So not only are your wheels out of line, your chain's out of line as well. So how do you check it? Quite simple. You need a rule, a piece of string, or a ball of string like this one, and some either kitchen steps, ordinary utility steps, or a couple of bricks or whatever, just to tie off the string at the front of the bike. Now the really important thing though is to run the string from the front right round the back of the bike. You can just see it here, round the back of the tyre and down the other side. And this is the crucial part. You're trying to capture the whole width of that back tyre. So you need the string to be touching on this sharp edge here and this sharp edge there, and exactly the same on the other side. This one's got a centre stand, the CBR 600, so you can run this underneath. Otherwise, you'd have to have a paddock stand on the back. Once you've got the strings in position, you can see them here coming up, anchored to the old stool. You can then see the difference between that big 180mm back tyre down to this 120mm front. All you need to do, get your trusty little rule and measure off that edge to the string there, that edge to the string there. Same on the other side. Make sure all those measurements are the same. If they're all the same, that means the wheels are both in line. If they're not, leave the front wheel where it is, but come back to the rear, slacken off the wheel spindle, use the chain adjusters to just tweak the wheel backwards or forwards until you get it bang on straight.
And on Two Wheels next week, an in-depth look at the events which attracted over 80,000 visitors over 2 days to the East of England Showground. It's this year's BMF show.